Amos finally moved clubs and got to play in the Premier League. Portuguese Premier League.
I'm leaving.
Before you click off, he does make a big move to England later on. The Nigerian joined Porto off the back of a World Cup. Make sure to check this video so you know what happened. Reputation-wise, it's a step up from Nice, as they play in Europe's elite competition. However, for domestic affairs, it's technically a step down. Unfortunately, I can't speak much about it, since I didn't have the TV rights to watch the Liga Portugal. Skipping a year, Porto coach Paulo Sousa did Paulo Sousa things, and left for more money.
Be protagonist.
Sergio Conceição made a miraculous comeback. Porto actually made it to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, defeating Atletico Madrid and Valencia on the way. Unfortunately, they fell short to Roma, which kinda seems like a missed opportunity. Regardless, despite being in 2031, all we know about the Liga Portugal standings was that Porto finished runners-up to Benfica, while Amos scored 14 times and got 2 assists. Add 6 goals and 3 assists to the Champions League, and you got a pretty successful start at Porto. Although they did lose the Portuguese Cup final. Still, Amos was considered the key player at Porto, and with improvements to his passing and physicals, he was starting to adapt well at left wing. Just not for Nigeria. The 2031 African Cup of Nations rolled around in the summer, and with the previous coach Gavin Hunt realizing he can't match what he did last year, the South African retired. And another one came in as the Super Eagles boss.
What does that say, Anaya?
What?
For South Africans, this is probably the easiest word ever. Oh, just Giti. Regardless, this was their new boss, and he actually played a formation that will see Amos step onto the pitch. With a relatively simple AFCON group, Amos was the best out of anyone. 3 wins and a goal difference of +12. The now healthy Aussie man was scoring the most, and Felix Agu was the top assist provider. Amos had 2 Player of the Match awards, and the highest average rating by far. That all continued in the round of 16 versus Zimbabwe, where Amos got a goal and an assist, while Aussie men scored a hat-trick. Algeria were the quarterfinal opponents, and Nigeria showed dominance early. Amos had a great opportunity, but he messed it up. Minutes later, Aussie man showed how it was done. A dream start, but a concerning thing to look out for is his and Amos's fitness. It wasn't even half time. Aussie man even got injured after a rough challenge, so Nigeria had to finish the job without him. Unfortunately, the defense wouldn't help, as Nduka, who played with Amos at the U20 World Cup all those years ago, mistimed his challenge. Not sure why he was playing center back, but Algeria's Theo Zidane equalized the encounter. Chances flew by, but this was going to extra time. Amos was dead, but the coach kept him in, which was concerning if they won the match. But he'll take this over being fit and wasting minutes on the bench. In the 98th minute, some clumsy defending nearly shattered everything, but it would be in the second half of extra time where the deadlock was broken. Algeria's keeper Lucas Zidane comes out to grab the— oh wait! He heads it to Amos! He heads to Awani, and the Nigerian takes advantage of an empty net. That mistake took Nigeria to the semi-finals. Cameroon were the opponents, the nation who eliminated them from the last iteration. Despite a 4-day break, Amos was not ready to start. The rest was also not enough for Aussie man, whose injury would prevent him from participating for the rest of the tournament. It was concerning for Nigeria, as just prior to the half-hour mark, they were cut apart for an Mbueno opener. So, how do you respond? By scoring a garbage goal off a corner kick, of course, the international way. In the second half, Cameroon were looking slightly better, but it was going to be another extra time affair. Amos was subbed in, although not fully fit. That wouldn't impact anything, as a bottle of ketchup missed a long ball, landing to Mofi, who took the lead for Nigeria, sending them to the— what are you doing, okay? Oh no! Cameroon equalizes! That led to a penalty shootout, and I think this is the first time Amos is ever participating in one. Regardless, Mofi calmly slotted the opener, while Mbueno— bro, you okay? Goal scorer Felix Amencha responded well, but so did Cameroon's Faris. Amos was up to give a 3-2 advantage, and Nigeria's number 15 put it top bins. That don't f with me aura intimidated Cameroon, specifically Fuchs, whose shot was easily stopped. Bassi would tuck in Nigeria's 4th, meaning all the pressure was on Borisi now, and Cameroon would be denied by OK again. Nigeria were off to the final, where they would face Morocco, led by Real Madrid winger Mustafa Wafi. Unfortunately, both countries' stars would start on the bench due to fitness issues. Who did that impact more? Well, both were getting some solid chances early, especially the Moroccans. Unlike a lot of AFCON finals you may have seen, this one was packed full of opportunities. However, none of these would open the encounter. Instead, a little before halftime, Awoniyi was tripped in the box by Amrabat. Mofi would get the first blood. A few more close calls came, but after this Morocco opportunity, nothing of significance happened until the last 10 minutes. Zanussi on the ball, and he puts in a brilliant delivery to Okoronkwo, whose header couldn't be denied. That broke Morocco's will, as Mofi would guarantee a victory late, making Nigeria's AFCON triumph emphatic. Amos' first international trophy, and while he nor Osimhen contributed in the final stages, they both were key to Nigeria's success, and the rest filled up the gaps when needed. So, what's next? Nothing for Victor, as he straight up dipped and retired from the international stage. Amos would later become the captain, but matching what they did in the past would prove to be difficult. Back to Amos' club career, his second season at Porto was upon us. One where he would have his best output thus far. A familiar face joined with Reni Breinberg's transfer. Some other players came in, but the core of the Porto side included Oscar Cortez, João Mario, Jorge Morales, Thiago Sousa, Filip Krastev, Roberto Campolo, Kasper Tobias, and Canadian Stefan Eustáquio. It's been a couple years since the team won the Portuguese league, and thanks to Amos' performances, it was looking good. 7 wins and 1 draw to start things out. Unfortunately, a draw to Sporting set a trigger off. Conceição ditched the club for Atalanta. Fortunately, their intern Rafael Vicky only struggled with the first match, and even had an insane encounter with Bayern, finishing 5-5. Amos of course scoring and insisting in that. Porto wanted a full-time boss, and over a month went by until they finally appointed Pepe. With a history at Metz and Venezia, was he ready to take the Porto side to the title? Outside a loss to Manchester United, his first month went pretty damn well. Only a single goal conceded in 5 league encounters, that being a 2-1 win over Benfica. Porto were top of the table by 8 points, and Amos was impressing with 7 goals and 7 assists. The media described him as an elite attacking midfielder, but he continued to play on the left wing. Porto would eventually drop points, but those were far and few between, as Amos would lead Porto to the league title, not only with the most assists, but the top scorer too. Unfortunately, I couldn't show any of the Portuguese league highlights because of TV rights, because of that. And definitely not forgetting to confirm this. Being the best player in the Liga Portugal brought a lot of plaudits and interest from Manchester City. His side would also defeat Benfica in the Portuguese Cup final, claiming the double. A fantastic season that will surely see him take the next step, and 125k a week for 5 years? Alright, let's do a time skip.
3 years later.
Amos' Porto career would last longer than I anticipated. We're now in 2035, looking at a 29-year-old Amos with 2 years left on his deal. He had successful seasons, but on a personal level, none as good as the one you just saw. Nothing will be won until 2035, where Pepe's Porto dominated the Liga Portugal with 90 points. Amos was the vice captain and gathering interest once again. That would all have to wait for the African Cup of Nations. But for his country, things hadn't gone well. Nigeria were still the highest ranked African country, but the 2034 World Cup saw them lose to England in the round of 32, while the 2033 AFCON saw them eliminated by Ivory Coast in the quarters. In the present day, the same team eliminated them, but this time in the semis. They won the 3rd place playoff, where Amos showed off, scoring 4 versus Morocco. He got to play the tournament with his U20 World Cup pals, Nwosu and Aletu, who both were in Serie A. Not remarkable careers that seemed promising at one point, but they made it. Still, who was Amos showing off to embarrass Morocco? Well, his new fans. As Fabrizio would say,
"Here we go. The agreement is now completed between Newcastle."
Reuniting with Marvin Watiao. How will his career end? Will it have a Premier League medal and potentially another European trophy? One more video will come out eventually, but when that will be is a different question.